Well, I think we can go ahead and start. Same if you want to start the recording, that would be fine. Today, I will be showing you guys a tutorial on how to create a photo illustration. And you can do some really artistic things with this, but you can also, there are real life applications for it. So the example I'm going to do first today, it involves a family photo. And then if we have time, if I breeze through that really quickly, we will go ahead and I'm going to do a second one for you guys. All right. So let me screen share my Photoshop screen. All right. So here we are. Today I've chosen a beautiful photo of the Eiffel Tower. And all of my photos that I'm using today, I did get from Unsplash, and you'll notice that as normal, I've put the photo credit in the lower left-hand corner. So the first thing I'm going to do is, since I know I want this to be my background for my family photo, and you can kind of use your imagination that maybe this is your family photo and you want to trick people into thinking you took a beautiful vacation to France. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to place my family photo image. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that up. And, I think I have to actually find it. My desktop is a mess, so I'm sorry about that, guys. So here is my family photo picture, right? I'm gonna go ahead and place that. And I'm going to size it appropriately. So I want, obviously, my family to be primary in this. Good, they look great. And then you hit accept. And as you notice, that creates another layer over here, right? And also, not to totally change topics here, but feel free to send chats if you guys have any questions, all right? So, family photo, beautiful. I chose this photo today because it's a little more simple for tutorial purposes. They're on a blue background, so it's going to be pretty easy for us to isolate that background. So I'm going to go ahead and, using my quick selection tool, let me get rid of this. Yep. Using my quick selection tool, I'm going to go ahead and grab that background. All right. You see it does a pretty good job of grabbing the background. And I can go in there and grab this little area under her arm, and you'll notice that teeny sliver there. I didn't get that, so that's okay. Now in this instance, we want to mask out the background and not the people. So I'm going to select inverse and then go ahead and click my little add vector mask button. Okay, so let me just undo that. So I selected my background because I want to mask out the background and not the people. I selected inverse, and then as long as you're on that layer, go ahead and click this select add layer mask, and then it will mask out the background. So that's a good start, right? Obviously, we need to maybe move them side to side so that we can have the Eiffel Tower in the picture. Maybe we want to scale it a little bit. And now you'll notice when I do this, it'll probably, let me move it around. Scale it appropriately so we get the Eiffel Tower there in the background. All right, so that's perfect. But you'll notice that when I did it, it probably didn't get all the little blue areas. Like right here, we got to go in and touch that up. So I'm going to go in with my paintbrush. I'm going to go ahead and grab this area with my selection tool, make it smaller. Click this. So it doesn't grab it perfectly, so I'm going to just do it by hand today. On the mask layer, I'm going to use my paintbrush tool in the color black to remove this area, right? You can change your brush size. It doesn't have to be perfect, you know, you can kind of just get in there and get, you know, about the area. So there we go. Great. Now I'm just getting rid of this little blue halo around her arm. I noticed another area in the mother's hair. All right, we're gonna go in there and I'm gonna kind of fix her hair and get rid of some of this blue. So go ahead and make it a little bit bigger maybe. Go right here. Smooth it out. Maybe I'll even just totally get rid of that. All right. Looks pretty good. Grab this area of blue, I'm gonna remove that. Typically, you might find it easier to remove background if like the background is similar or, you know, to the photo you're photoshopping it into, or even, you know, even maybe a white background. That's always a little easier. So that looks pretty good, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and crop my composition because I kind of want this to feel a little more intentional, like it's an actual family photo. So I have like a kind of guide on here, but you know, 5x7, that's a really common photo size that maybe a family would print their photo at. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. So when you're in your crop tool, it has the presets here. And it gives you these little presets that when you select it, you're able to just sort of apply those presets to this. And so that's what I've done here. I chose the 5x7 one. So there we go. That's the start of our beautiful photo. Now I would look at this photo, and if we're trying to match it to the background, it's pretty likely that the photo of our family might not match the background perfectly. So what I would want to do is I would want to create an adjustment layer to lighten up and make their photo brighter so that it matches a little bit better with this really bright background image of the Eiffel Tower. So I'm going to go over here on the right and all my this panel that has all my different options here to pull up, you know, these different panels. We're going to go to adjustments and we're going to click, let's do levels, right? And so you'll notice that temporarily it's going to also change the background, but that's okay. Focus on our family's faces. So this middle one, it is going to change like the midtones. We want to kind of brighten it just a little bit, right? And maybe bring up the whites in the photo just a little bit. Very minor adjustments. You don't want to do anything too crazy. We're going to go to our layers panel now, and you'll now notice that that levels 1 is our third layer. So if you hold down the option button, at least that's what the shortcut is on a Mac. I'm unsure what it is on a PC, but if you hold down the option button and you hover your mouse over the line that separates these two layers, it'll pull up this little square with an arrow icon. And what that's going to allow you to do is clip that adjustment layer only to the layer directly below it. So it will not apply to the background layer. And that's what we want to do. Because if you remember things in Photoshop, The topmost layer is essentially in the layer that is the closest to you in the composition. So this is the background image that we started with. We placed the family on top of that, and this adjustment layer here applies only to our family. So that is starting to look really nice. You know, there are some other things that I might do. The mom has a lot of blue shadows on her shirt here. What I would probably do is I would probably take a black and white adjustment layer. I'm going to apply that only to the family by clipping it, right? Holding down the option button and clipping it only to the family. And now it makes our whole family in black and white, and I don't want that. So I'm going to take my paint bucket tool, and while my mask is selected, we know it's selected because all four corners have a little selection around them. I'm going to use my paint bucket tool in the color black to get rid of it. And we're going to go in and apply that only where we want it. And that is on the edge of our mom here on her black and white shirt. And it makes it pretty easy that her shirt is black and white because I can just use that black and white adjustment layer. There are other ways you can do this, and I can show you that next. Let's say if her shirt was not black and white, if it was red or green or something like that. So but either way, this makes it really easy because her shirt is black and white. So now I'm going to put back the black and white adjustment layer only in the areas I want it, using my paintbrush tool in the color white. I'm going to go ahead and make this really soft, which it already is, really soft brush, meaning it has a fuzzy edge around the corner. Just going to carefully go in and paint it around her shirt area that is blue. There we go. It got rid of that color there. And that kind of helps it mesh a little bit more into the background, I think. All right. And then the next thing that you could do if you don't use the black and white one, let's say her shirt is, you know, a different color than black and white. We'll just delete that layer so I can show you another way to do that same thing. Oh, there we go. Delete that whole layer. Another thing that you can do is, let me see which one I think would be best. I think selective color. So it's in the adjustments panel and click selective color. What you do is you would click blues, you'd reduce the cyan, and then you'd click cyan and you'd reduce the cyan, right? And you can see that it starting to take away that blue color from here. You'd also want to click whites because the white is where it's most noticeably blue, and reduce the cyan. And then I would also go to neutrals and I would reduce the cyan from neutrals, but that starts to look a little crazy. So I would just do it a little bit. Now that we're in our layers panel, first of all, I want to apply it only to the family. So I'm going to clip it by holding down option, hovering over the line in between the two layers, apply it only to our family. Now I'm going to go to my paint bucket tool with the mask selected. I'm going to get rid of it completely and then add in the adjustment layer only where I want it, using the color white and a really soft paintbrush. I'm going to go ahead and paint that right over the area, right? So there you go. I got rid of the blue from the edge of mom's shirt. So the next thing that I want to do is I want to make this photo even more incredible. So I'm going to go ahead and place another image on in this file. One second. My cat is harassing me. All righty. So I think it would be really beautiful if I had a butterfly landing on our family, right? Or in the photo. So the first thing I'm going to do is place the photo. And the way I did that, by the way, was File, Place Linked. and it'll pull up the options. You just hit place. All right. I'm going to size it accordingly. Butterflies are pretty small normally, so I think that looks good. All right, kind of place it in the frame in the general area that you'd like it to be. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select the background using my selection tool. All right. I get rid of the butterfly area. So I want my butterfly to be in the frame. Okay, and it didn't do a perfect job, but it did a pretty good job. Whoops, forgot to do that thing I did earlier. Remember when I went to select inverse because we want to keep the butterfly and we just selected the background. So you'll need to do that select inverse. And then when you're in the layer, hit this create a mask button, add layer mask. There we go. And sometimes it doesn't do a perfect job. You kind of see this outline here, right, of the green. We have to go in and kind of fix a couple areas of the butterfly, and that's normal. So we're going to go ahead and make our brush hard, and we're going to take the color black, get rid of the edge that you can see here. Another way is to tap the backslash button that is right underneath the delete key on your keyboard. It's like 3 keys over to the right from the letter P. Okay, and that will pull up where the mask is in red. So we're going to zoom in on our butterfly here. And we're going to just go ahead and perfect this, finish masking out the green area. All right. If you have a really steady hand, you can just go ahead and do it. You can also click once, hold down Shift, and then click again, and it will draw a straight line. So that's kind of a nice trick that I like to do. Okay. So there are some intricate, areas like here with the antenna and his legs. Just kind of get in there with your paintbrush tool. All right. And the antenna and his legs might have that kind of green halo around it. So that's probably a good opportunity for you to use a mask, right, to get rid of any green halos, similar to how we just eliminated the blue from Mom's shirt. So that's how I would do that, because it's hard to get so close in. Let's see, this looks a little fuzzy. So I think I'm going to add in, there we go. And we'll kind of do the same thing with the wing here. All right. So that looks pretty good, but you can see a little bit of that blue there. So I'm going to go to my adjustment layer, click the black and white. I'm going to go back to my layers panel. You'll notice it's above our butterfly layer, right, which we can rename this butterfly. And we'll rename this family. And if you remember, renaming your layers really helps you keep organized. So you want to apply the black and white layer only to the butterfly. So hold down Option in between where the 2 layers meet, and I'm going to clip it directly to my butterfly. And like I said before, I don't want that to apply to all of the butterfly, only a couple of areas. So I'm going to go ahead and use my paint bucket tool in the color black. To get rid of it, I'm going to add in the mask only where I want to add it. So I'm going to zoom in. I have my paintbrush tool up, color white, which adds something back into a mask. I'm going to use a really soft brush by reducing the hardness. Go ahead and get in there with that. Just get the edge here. Okay, great. Now we've kind of reduced that green. So we have this butterfly now that we can move around in our image, but if you move the butterfly around, you'll notice I applied the mask to the butterfly. And you can see that little tiny white dot there is where I applied the mask. So if I move the butterfly, the mask won't be in the same place. So what we want to do is we want to select these two layers and we want to keep them together at all times. So once you have them selected, if you right click on it, there we go. You'll see this option to link layers. And what that's going to do is it's going to force those two layers to move together as one at all times, right? Now we can move our butterfly around. Maybe the butterfly is landing on the daughter's head, because that would be a magical moment if you're already in Paris. Am I right? All right. So we have created this beautiful, extremely memorable, but not real family photo using 3 different photos. And, you know, I mean, if somebody had an untrained eye, you could have me fooled. Of course, there's always work you can do going into their hair. I used a soft brush in her hair and it doesn't look quite realistic. If I was doing this for real, I would really want this to be super realistic. So I would go in very carefully and I would do that, right? I'm going to save this, which for the record, you should do from the beginning, and you should save frequently, more frequently than I do. I'm going to call this family photo. Okay. And I will put this on the Dropbox in case anyone wants to look at how I have done this or created my layers. All right. Since we do have time, I do want to do another one for you guys. So let me go ahead and pull up another photo. All right. So now we have this photo, which is kind of a nice photo, very candid. It looks like somebody maybe took a photo of this couple. You can maybe see a little bit that this woman is smiling on the beach. Now, we want to make this the most epic beach photo ever. So we're going to go to File, Place Linked, and we're going to choose our photo, which is of a rocket ship taking off. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and size that accordingly, holding down the shift button so that as we size it, it is proportional. Now I kind of want to see where my couple is. So just for the sake of seeing how my composition is going to look, I'm going to go ahead and reduce the opacity here. Oh, that will be perfect. The aircraft will end up being right by our woman. Okay. So I like to do that just so I can kind of see what I'm doing. So what I'm going to do is temporarily turn off the layer because I want to figure out where my beach line is, right? So I'm going to go ahead, and this is a good time to use a magic wand tool. I'm going to select my background. Oh, maybe it's not. Sometimes you think you're using the appropriate tool and then it looks like this. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to deselect that, and I'm going to use my quick selection tool this time. There we go. That's a little bit better. And you can go in and finesse that so it didn't get all of her hair. And we might have to go in later and touch that up a little bit. So I'm going to hold down the Option key, which allows you to kind of finesse that selection. All right, that looks pretty good. Now that we have our area selected in which the new photo is going to go, we'll go ahead and turn that back on. All right, and now we want to mask out the area outside of the selection. So we're going to select inverse. I'm going to go ahead and apply, whoops, We don't need a select inverse this time. There we go. So we've applied this photo, this mask to this photo. And sometimes if you get confused, like I just did about making a selection when you're adding a layer mask to something, you can just go ahead and if you mess up, just hit undo. So the first thing that I would do here is probably add adjustment layers to make this look really realistic. And also you can disable a layer mask temporarily to kind of take a look at what your image looked like, right? And then you can enable it. And I actually think that I might go in with a soft brush and add in some clouds back over this water, because I think that might help it look more realistic. So I'm going to go ahead with my paintbrush and I'm going to make it kind of soft, but not too soft by making the hardness maybe around 30. And you can kind of go in like this. See, and add some clouds back in. And then maybe I want to reduce the opacity a bit so that some of these look like they're starting to fade, right? So that looks pretty good. And if I was doing this for real, I would go in and I would perfect it, right? I would go in and I'd be super careful about everything that I was doing. So, all right, so this picture of these people is really purple. So we kind of want to adjust the color of the spaceship image. So I'm going to use an adjustment layer. And for this one, I think I might try photo filter. Okay, photo filters are pretty cool because they kind of just add a color over the photo. So I'm going to look and see what violet looks like. And that kind of works, right? And before I adjust that too much, I'm going to go and use the option key to link it to the photo only. Okay. So here you'll notice it now applies only to my space shuttle image. I'm going to go back in so that I can adjust it by clicking this layer thumbnail. And I might try a couple other ones, but let me see if maybe magenta makes it a little bit. We'll try violet, and you can adjust the density of it like this. I also maybe want to reduce some of the brightness of it. But before I do that, I'm going to go in and I think I might actually edit this layer one more time. I am going to select the blue sky. And I think maybe I want to eliminate the blue sky. All right. And now it's not going to be perfect, but it'll be something. I'm going to get rid of that because I don't want my space shuttle to be removed. Just the blue. All right. Now let's go to our layer mask here using our paintbrush tool. I'm going to get rid of it using the color black. I'm going to bring my opacity back up. I'm going to go ahead and what I have noticed is that that looks, it looks almost realistic. What I would want to do here is go in with the clouds, to the clouds with a really soft brush, even softer than that. And I would want to probably fade in the edges of the clouds a little bit. You can even do it by reducing the opacity of your brush a little bit. You can just kind of go in, maybe not reducing the opacity of it. Just play around with it, until it looks and feels realistic. That's going to be the key here. And the problem is some of these darker blue areas. So maybe, you know, if you want to fade it in a little more. Okay. It's looking pretty good. And maybe what I would do here is add an adjustment layer to reduce some of the, yeah, I want to bring up the brightness of this quite a bit because what I'm noticing is the background is actually more yellow. And then the foreground is actually more purple. So what I would do is, now that I'm looking at my composition and looking at the sky, maybe I have the wrong adjustment layer on here. Maybe I want a yellow one, you know, and then we'll go in here. That actually looks a little better, maybe even orange. Maybe we'll see how orange looks. I would go in here. I also maybe want to make it a little brighter because this looks like it's in the evening, probably during golden hour. So I want to bring up the brightness of that a little bit and apply it only to my rocket ship layer. So let's go ahead and hold down the Option key. All right, so that's starting to feel a lot more natural. I think adding that orange adjustment to it in the photo filter actually helped. So that looks good. And I would just go in and I would just continue to use my brush tool to make the clouds feel a little bit more natural. You know, I'd probably reduce the opacity and kind of go over them a little bit, bring my hardness down so that I have a really soft brush that's really blending in with the background. And as you go, you're just going to continue to edit this layer and make it feel as realistic as possible until, you know, you can't even tell and it seems seamless. And that's starting to look really cool, right? As if these people are watching a launch. Now, I don't really know why this launch is taking place in the middle of the ocean or a lake, so it's not super realistic, but that's not the point of this tutorial right now. The point of this tutorial is for you guys to see how easy it can be to mesh layers together to create a semi-realistic looking image. And now if we want to get this cloud here, but we don't want to get our rocket ship, what I would do is I would select the area, right? So that I can go in and isolate it without affecting the rocket ship. See that? Looks pretty good, right? So, you know, maybe they're on an island. That could be it. What other images did I have? Let me take a look and see if there's anything else we can add. I think. Oh yeah, I did have one more. Okay, so we have this picture of the moon here that I think is really cool. We're gonna go ahead and hit accept. Well, before we do that, I want to resize it because I want the moon to be over here in the photo, right? I mean, the rocket ship's got to have somewhere to go. Then we're going to create a mask and we're going to go ahead and select the background. We're going to only select the background. And this you might have to go in and kind of do by hand. So the hard edge of the moon, we're going to go ahead and use a selection. Oops, we got to bring our opacity up to get rid of that. So there we go. Let's zoom in on this. We're going to have that little edge line here. So I'm going to make my brush really hard by bringing the hardness up. I'm going to get rid of this little background or this edge line. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and we see that right about here is where the moon fades into the sky. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get my really soft brush again by reducing the hardness to 0%. I'm going to go ahead like this. And instead of applying adjustment layers to it right away, what I'm going to do is once I have the mask to a point that I think it looks really good and realistic, by using, different softness, different opacity, then I'm going to try first and see if one of these layer adjustments works. So I'm going to, with my moon layer selected, by the way, maybe I want to move it down a little bit right here. So it looks like it might be good. I'm going to just go ahead and hover over all of these until I see maybe one will work, maybe not. So let's take a look. It's kind of cool. If you don't find one that works right away, that's okay, because we can make it look real using adjustment layers. So yeah, nothing really works totally for this. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to apply an adjustment layer. So what I want to do here is I want to reduce the color of it and I want to brighten it up. So first, let's brighten it up by just going to brightness contrast and bringing that brightness up a bunch, right? Now we want to apply this only to our moon layer, and we'll go ahead and rename this moon. There we go. All right, now we're going to want to add another adjustment layer to it. So it's really purple and blue right now. We can go ahead and use selective color. We're going to hit blues and let's see if we can reduce the blues. We're going to hit cyan. We're going to reduce the cyan there. Magentas, I'm going to reduce the blue. And we want to make sure we apply it only to that moon layer. Let's see, does it really make a difference? Yeah, it kind of does. It makes it a little bit more purple, just sort of like our foreground image here. And then we're going to add another adjustment layer. That orange filter worked really well earlier. So let's apply that same one. Let's go to layers and we'll apply it only to our moon. All right. And maybe the moon is a little too prominent. Maybe we want to bring down the opacity a little bit because it's in the sky, and who knows, maybe it doesn't need to be that prominent. We're going to go ahead using a soft brush. We're going to just kind of fade the side of the moon a little more, right, into the sky. All right. So now we know where our rocket ship is going. So you'll notice here, okay, let's title this shuttle. So you'll notice we have a lot of layers here. And so that's why naming your layers is important. So this looks pretty good. We have done a lot of work. What I always like to do is I always like to turn off all of my layers to see where I started. And I like to add things back in one at a time and see how each of my layers impacted the composition. So here we have what was a really boring picture of a couple on a really boring beach. And now it's pretty incredible, right? So we're going to hit save. I'm going to save this as NASA. Oh, and that way you guys can take a look at how I have formatted this if you want. So let me go back to family photo because I think it would be cool to show you guys these layers as well. So here we have the original, added in the family, adjusted their levels, did a couple other adjustments, right? Added in the butterfly, which you can see right here for anyone that's tuning in just now. Okay, so yeah, I think that was a really good tutorial of how you can create photo illustrations and use adjustment layers and masks to make things look really realistic. We have a couple minutes still. Does anyone have, oh, can you please repeat how you put the family in again? Sorry, of course. So, get rid of the chat. I'm going to turn them off. What I did is when I had this background image open, I went to File, Place Linked, and then you select your family. You hit place, and then you just resize them in a way that you think looks realistic for the composition. And they were about that size, I think, maybe a little bit bigger. And then you hit accept, which is this little check arrow here. And then I just grabbed the background by using my quick selection tool to grab the background out. Okay. Select inverse. You go ahead and create a mask by clicking this layer. But we have our family layer that's been perfectly adjusted using some of these adjustment layers up above. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this layer now that I showed you guys how I added it in. I'm going to return to my layer that we have been working on for this tutorial. Okay, let me check the chat. All right. Any other questions? Maybe with the couple minutes that I have left, I can refresh your guys' memory on some of the retouching tools from last week. So since we have the images linked within our document, the nice thing is if you double click on it, and you'll know it's linked because it has this little link here. You double click on it, it opens it in a separate tab. So look, we have 3 tabs up here now. And you can go in and you can do some adjustments using, this is the clone stamp tool. What you can do is you just size it accordingly, make sure that it's really soft, sample an area by holding down the option key. And you'll know that sampling the area when it pulls up that little like X in the circle symbol. So sample it, and then you can go ahead and you can, we need to bring the opacity up. There we go. And you can go ahead and remove imperfections just like that. See, sample an area, cover it up. All right, sample an area, cover it up. Say you just wanted to brighten someone's smile. Let's see. They all have pretty bright smiles. We'll brighten Dad's smile here. We're going to go to the dodge tool, which is going to lighten an area. You want to bring the exposure down quite a bit because we don't want to do too much here, but just go ahead and hover over his teeth maybe, and it will brighten his smile, right? Another thing that you can do is going to filter and liquefy. We'll pull up a whole new little interface here within Photoshop. So give it a second. There we go. You can do some, let me scroll. You can do some kind of funny retouching. Let's see, can we see anyone's arms? I was going to give somebody a really muscular bicep. So let's say we wanted to give the son here a bigger bicep, right? Size your circle appropriately. It's kind of hard to see over the pattern, so I'm going to move it over the blue here. So it's about the size of a bicep, right? And you can go ahead over his arm and just kind of move it out a little bit. And it might be sort of hard to tell, you know, how it looks right away because it has like a little almost ghost image over it. So let's see how that looks. We'll zoom out. There you go. Gave him a bigger bicep. So these are just some of the retouching tools that we used last week and in weeks prior. So those are all really, really good things to know. So if I go ahead and hit save and then I close out of this, when I go back to my family photo, you'll notice that change applied to the family photo here. His big bicep is right here. All right. So that's all I have for today. It's about 7:20. Any last questions from anyone? Saw Cynthia's message. Glad you liked the classes. All right, Sam, you can go ahead and turn the recording off. That way, if anyone wants to pop on screen to ask a question, they can do so.